the vast emptiness of space held many secrets. For thousands of years, Earth stood alone, a blue marble hanging in the darkness. Humans looked up at the stars and wondered if anyone else was out there. Hansu checked the readings on his monitoring station aboard the Galactic Confederation scout ship Horizon. The quiet beeping of the sensors was the only sound on the bridge. "Captain Jean, I'm detecting unusual energy patterns from the third planet in this system," Hansu reported, his eyes fixed on the screen. Captain Jean walked over, her uniform perfectly pressed as always. She looked at the readings with interest. "Run a full scan. This system wasn't due for survey for another decade." The ship moved closer to the blue planet. What they found surprised everyone on board. The planet was full of life, not just simple organisms, but an advanced civilization. 7 billion humans lived there. They had cities that lit up the night side of the planet. Their satellites orbited their world. They had even built bases on their moon and the red planet nearby. "This is impossible," said Science Officer Moon as she reviewed the data. "They've only been using electricity for about 200 years, but look how far they've come. Our records show most species take at least 1,000 years to reach this level." Captain Jean frowned. "What about their FTL capabilities?" "That's the strangest part," Officer Moon replied. "They don't have FTL yet, but they're very close. Their theoretical models are sound. They might achieve it within a decade." The crew continued to observe Earth without making contact. They watched news broadcasts, studied internet transmissions, and analyzed human history. What they found worried them. "They've had so many wars," Security Chief Kong said during the briefing. "Global conflicts, endless smaller battles. Even now, they fight among themselves. But they also create beautiful art, music, and literature," countered Officer Moon. "They care for their sick and help each other after disasters." Admiral Park arrived 3 days later on a faster ship. His face was stern as he reviewed all the information. "Humanity is advancing too quickly," he told the gathered officers. "Their drive to explore is matched only by their capacity for violence. You've seen their entertainment, they dream of space battles and conquering the stars." "Not all of them," Captain Jean argued. "Many dream of peaceful contact." Admiral Park shook his head. "We can't take that chance. One aggressive species with FTL capabilities could destabilize the whole Confederation. Remember the Sundering Wars." No one spoke. Every school child knew about those terrible conflicts that nearly destroyed galactic civilization. "What do you recommend, Admiral?" asked Captain Jean. "I'm calling an emergency council meeting," he replied. "Until then, we maintain distance and continue observation." Back on Earth, Dr. Song worked late in her laboratory. Her FTL theory was almost complete. The equations on her screen were beautiful in their elegance. "We're so close," she told her assistant. "The stars are almost within our reach." She had no idea that beings from those very stars were watching her work with growing concern. The Confederation Council met in an emergency session. Representatives from 37 species debated what to do about Earth. "They are too dangerous," said the delegate from Proxima Centauri. "Their history is filled with violence." "But they show great promise," countered another. "They've overcome many of their worst tendencies. Their global cooperation has increased in recent decades." Admiral Park presented the final report from the observation team. "Humans have accomplished in centuries what took most of us millennia. Their adaptability is remarkable. Their drive to overcome challenges is unmatched. And their military history suggests they will not peacefully accept any limitations we might impose." The vote was unanimous. Earth would be placed under quarantine. No contact would be allowed. Hidden monitoring stations would be placed throughout their solar system. Any ship that tried to leave would be quietly turned back. "One day, they may be ready to join us," Admiral Park said as the council adjourned. "But not yet. The sleeping giant must remain asleep a while longer." The Horizon and other ships placed the monitoring devices in secret. No human telescope spotted them. No radio telescope heard their communications. On Earth, Dr. Song made her breakthrough. "We can do it," she exclaimed. "We can build an FTL drive." The first test was scheduled for next year. Humanity stood on the threshold of the stars, unaware that invisible hands were already reaching out to hold them back. The sleeping giant stirred in its dreams, but the galaxy wasn't ready for it to wake. For 50 years, the quarantine held firm around Earth. The Confederation's monitoring stations floated silently in the darkness between planets. They looked like small asteroids to any Earth telescope that happened to spot them. Inside each station, advanced systems kept watch over humanity. Dr. Sukja Kim stood before the United Earth Council in their meeting chamber in New Geneva. At 65, her hair had gone completely gray, but her eyes still burned with the same passion she had felt as a young scientist. Behind her, a large screen showed the sleek shape of a spacecraft. "The Prometheus is ready," she announced to the 20 council members. "Our first FTL-capable ship can make the journey to Alpha Centauri in just 3 days." Council President Hyun leaned forward. "You're certain the drive will work?" "The previous tests were successful," Dr. Kim cut in. "The unmanned probes confirmed our calculations. This time, we're ready to send people." What no human knew was that those successful tests had been anything but. The Confederation monitors had detected each probe and quietly redirected them back to Earth's solar system, making their navigation systems show false readings. The humans thought they had reached nearby stars, but they had never left home. This time would be different. Dr. Kim had changed her approach. "The new drive works on principles we've never tried before," she explained to the council. "It doesn't push against space like our earlier models. Instead, it folds space itself." In his monitoring station near Jupiter, technician Min watched the sensor readings with growing concern. The human ship was using energy in ways the station's computers couldn't understand. "Control, we have unusual activity at Earth's orbital shipyard," he reported. Control Officer Sung frowned at the data. "Their new drive doesn't match our predictions. Alert Admiral Park immediately." The Prometheus prepared for its maiden voyage. Captain Young stood on the bridge, looking at his crew of 12, the best pilots, engineers, and scientists Earth had to offer. "Today we make history," he said simply. "Today humanity reaches the stars." Dr. Kim joined him on the bridge as a special observer. "The drive is ready, Captain." "On your command." The ship moved away from Earth, accelerating to the edge of the solar system. The Confederation monitoring stations tracked its progress with growing alarm. "Intercept immediately," ordered Admiral Park from his command ship halfway across the galaxy. "Do not let them activate that drive." But the humans had chosen their launch position carefully. The Prometheus had reached a point between monitoring stations, a small blind spot in the quarantine net. "Activate FTL drive," ordered Captain Young. The ship's engines hummed with power. Space in front of the vessel began to bend and fold. On the nearest monitoring station, technician Min watched in horror as the human ship simply vanished from all sensors. "Control, we've lost them." For 3 days, the Confederation monitoring system searched for the missing human ship. Admiral Park arrived personally to oversee the crisis. "How did they do it?" he demanded. "How did they slip past our quarantine?" Officer Sung shook her head. "Their drive technology is like nothing we've seen before. It doesn't use conventional spacefolding methods. Our sensors weren't calibrated to detect it." Meanwhile, light years away, the Prometheus emerged near Alpha Centauri. The crew stared in wonder at the sight of a new star system up close. "We did it," whispered Dr. Kim, her eyes filled with tears. "We really did it." Captain Young was about to order a full system scan when the sensors chimed. "Captain, I'm detecting an artificial structure," said the sensor operator. "And, a ship is approaching." The approaching vessel was the GCS Vigilant, a Confederation patrol ship. Its captain, Officer June, had been stunned to detect a ship appearing from nowhere, especially one of unknown design. "This is impossible," he muttered. "No quarantine species has ever broken through before." He opened a communication channel, speaking in the Confederation's standard greeting pattern, a series of mathematical pulses that any advanced civilization should recognize. Aboard the Prometheus, Communications Officer Park worked quickly. "Captain, they're sending us a greeting. I can decode this, it's a language primer." Within hours, basic communication had been established. Captain Young stood tall as the main screen activated, showing the alien face of Captain June. "This is Captain Young of the United Earth vessel Prometheus. We come in peace and friendship." Captain June's expression was unreadable to human eyes. "You should not be here. Your world is under quarantine." The word translated clearly, and a stunned silence fell over the Prometheus bridge. Dr. Kim stepped forward. "Quarantine? Why? For how long?" 50 years, replied Captain June. "By order of the Galactic Confederation. Your species was deemed too unpredictable, too dangerous to join galactic society." Captain Young's face hardened. "We have rights as sentient beings. You cannot cage an entire species." "The decision was not mine," said Captain June. "But now that you have broken the quarantine, everything changes." Back at Earth, the monitoring stations were on high alert. The sleeping giant had not only stirred, it had awakened. The bridge of the Prometheus fell silent after Captain June's revelation. Captain Jiho had expected many things when they reached Alpha Centauri, but discovering Earth had been secretly quarantined wasn't one of them. "We need to see your ship," Captain June said through the translator. "No quarantined species has ever developed FTL technology like yours." Captain Jiho looked at Dr. Kim, who nodded slightly. They had prepared for first contact, but not like this. "I would like to extend an invitation to you, Captain June," Jiho said carefully. "Come aboard the Prometheus as our guest. We'll show you our technology, and perhaps you can explain why the Confederation thought it necessary to imprison our entire species." Security Chief Minho frowned. "Captain, is that wise? We know nothing about them." "They've been watching us for 50 years, Jiho replied quietly. "It's time we got to know them." 2 hours later, Captain June's shuttle docked with the Prometheus. The airlock cycled open, revealing a being that looked almost human, except for the faint blue tint to the skin and large, dark eyes. "Welcome aboard," said Jiho, bowing slightly. Captain June studied the humans with obvious curiosity. "Your ship, it's much smaller than I expected for an FTL vessel." Dr. Kim stepped forward. "That's because our approach to faster-than-light travel is fundamentally different. Would you like to see our engine room?" As they walked through the ship, June's surprise became more evident. The Prometheus was elegant in its simplicity. Where Confederation ships used massive energy cores and complex stabilization fields, the human vessel achieved the same results with far less. "This shouldn't work," June said, examining the FTL drive. "According to our physics, this is impossible." Dr. Kim smiled. "Yet here we are, 16 light-years from Earth." "How did you discover this method?" asked June. "By necessity," she replied. "We didn't have the resources to build massive drives, so we had to find another way." Later, in the ship's conference room, Captain June explained the quarantine. The Confederation had feared humanity's rapid development combined with their warlike history. They believed humans needed more time to mature as a species before joining the galactic community. "So you decided for us," said Jiho, his voice tight with controlled anger. "You denied us knowledge of a universe teeming with life. You made that choice without ever speaking to a single human." "The Council believed it was necessary," June replied. "Your species accomplished in centuries what took others millennia." Dr. Kim leaned forward. "Captain June, I understand caution. But true growth comes from exchange, from learning from others. By isolating us, you may have done both humanity and the Confederation a disservice." June looked troubled. "I must report your breakthrough to my superiors." "Before you do," said Jiho, "I have a proposal. Visit Earth with us. See our world firsthand. Then make your report with complete information." It was a bold suggestion. Confederation protocols strictly forbade such contact with quarantined worlds. But June was curious. The humans weren't what the reports had led him to expect. 1 week, June agreed finally. I will come to Earth for 1 week. The return journey was tense but uneventful. When they arrived back in Earth's solar system, the monitoring stations immediately detected them. Urgent messages from Admiral Park demanded Captain June return the humans to Earth and report to Confederation headquarters. June sent a brief reply, conducting diplomatic mission. Full report to follow. The Prometheus landed at the New Geneva spaceport to a confused welcome. No one had expected them to return with a visitor. The United Earth Council was hastily convened. Captain Jiho stood before the council with Captain June beside him. The chamber buzzed with shocked whispers. Members of the council, I bring news that will change our understanding of our place in the universe, Jiho began. We are not alone, but we have been deliberately isolated. Over the next hours, he explained everything they had learned about the quarantine. The initial shock and anger gradually gave way to more practical concerns. What happens now? Asked President Hyun. Captain June stepped forward. That depends on what we do in the coming days. I've been authorized to assess whether Earth is ready for contact. And if you decide we're not, asked a council member. Then the Confederation will attempt to reinforce the quarantine, June said honestly. But having seen your FTL technology, I doubt they would succeed. Dr. Kim smiled slightly. We have a saying on Earth, the genie cannot be put back in the bottle. For the next week, Captain June toured Earth's major cities, research centers, and cultural sites. He witnessed humanity's problems, pollution, poverty, conflict, but also their resilience, creativity, and determination. On his final day, standing before the council again, June made his decision. Earth does not belong in a cage, he announced. I will recommend that the quarantine be lifted and diplomatic relations established. President Hyun nodded solemnly. And if the Confederation refuses? Then, said June, looking at Captain Jiho, you have already proven you can break your chains on your own. The sleeping giant was fully awake now, and the galaxy would never be the same. Captain June's report to the Confederation Council caused an uproar. The once orderly chamber descended into chaos as representatives from 37 species argued about what to do with humanity. They must be contained, shouted the representative from Proxima Centauri. Their technology is too unpredictable. But they've already broken the quarantine, countered another. The barrier is meaningless now. Admiral Park stood silently at the back of the chamber, watching the debate with a grim expression. When he finally spoke, the room fell quiet. The humans now know about us, he said simply. And they know we've been keeping them prisoner in their own solar system. How would you react to such news? Back on Earth, that question was being answered. News of the quarantine spread across the planet like wildfire. At first, there was shock and anger. Protests erupted outside government buildings. People demanded action, though few agreed on what that action should be. In an emergency broadcast, President Hyun called for calm. This is a moment that will define humanity's future, she said. We can respond with anger, or we can show the galaxy that we are better than they feared. But even as she spoke of peace, Earth's defense forces were mobilizing. The plans for the Prometheus had been shared with shipyards around the world. Work that would normally take years was compressed into months as resources poured in from every nation. In her laboratory, Dr. Kim worked tirelessly with a team of engineers. The Confederation's monitoring stations use standard technology, she explained, pointing to schematics they had obtained from Captain June. We can adapt our FTL principles to create something they can't detect or stop. Within 6 months, 5 new ships joined the Prometheus in orbit. Each was larger and more powerful than the first. Within a year, the fleet had grown to 20 vessels. By the end of 18 months, 50 ships hovered in Earth orbit, each equipped with weapon systems that utilized the same principles as their FTL drive. Admiral Tay, head of the United Earth Defense Force, reviewed the fleet from his flagship, the UES Defiance. Are we really ready for this? He asked his second-in-command. Commander Soon nodded grimly. The question is, are they ready for us? In the Confederation capital, Admiral Park argued against military intervention. I've studied human history extensively, he told the council. They unite against external threats. An attack would only accelerate their military development. Then what do you suggest? Asked the council leader. We can't allow an unregulated species with advanced technology to roam the galaxy freely. We negotiate, said Admiral Park. As equals. But the council was divided, and no decision was reached. Days stretched into weeks, and weeks into months. The quarantine remained officially in place, though it had become increasingly meaningless as human ships probed the boundaries of their solar system, easily evading the outdated monitoring stations. Then came the day that changed everything. Without warning, the United Earth fleet vanished from orbit. Confederation monitoring stations lost track of all 50 vessels simultaneously. Find them, ordered the council leader. They must be planning an attack. 3 days later, the fleet reappeared, not near Earth, but at the edge of Confederation space, just outside the Arcturus system where the regional headquarters was located. On the bridge of the UES Defiance, Admiral Tay opened a communication channel. This is Admiral Tay of the United Earth Defense Force. We come seeking diplomatic talks with the Confederation Council. The response was immediate. Return to your system at once. You are violating Confederation space. Admiral Tay remained calm. We are not here to fight. But we will no longer accept imprisonment. Humanity deserves a place among the stars. If the Confederation won't speak with us as equals, we will find our own path. To demonstrate their resolve, the human fleet performed a series of maneuvers that showcased their technological capabilities. Their ships moved with a precision and speed that stunned Confederation observers. Their drive technology is revolutionary, reported one science officer. And those energy readings? I believe their weapons systems use the same principles. In the council chamber, Admiral Park watched the recordings with a mixture of concern and admiration. They could have attacked, he noted. Instead, they're showing restraint. This is our chance to establish peaceful relations. The council leader looked troubled. Or they're simply showing us what they're capable of as a warning. Either way, said Admiral Park, the sleeping giant is fully awake. We can welcome it to the galactic community, or we can make an enemy that our children's children will still be fighting. After 3 days of tense standoff, the council finally agreed to formal talks. A neutral meeting ground was chosen, a space station orbiting an uninhabited planet in a system between Earth and Arcturus. As the human delegation prepared to depart, President Hyun addressed them. You carry the hopes of all humanity with you. Show them who we really are, not the warlike species they fear, but the explorers, dreamers, and builders we've always been. Admiral Tay nodded solemnly. We'll make Earth proud. The giant was awake, and the galaxy held its breath. The gathering hall on New Dawn Station hummed with tension. Representatives from 37 Confederation species filled the circular chamber, their eyes fixed on the 5 humans who had just entered. The human delegation, led by Ambassador Do-hyun, walked calmly to the center of the room. Admiral Park watched from his position among the Confederation leadership. The human ambassador looked much younger than he had expected, barely 50 years old, which for humans was still in their prime. The admiral noticed how the ambassador moved with confidence but not arrogance, a promising sign. Representatives of the Galactic Confederation, Ambassador Do-hyun began, his voice carrying clearly through the translator devices. I come before you today representing not just the United Earth government, but all 7 billion humans who call Earth home. He paused, looking around the room, making eye contact with as many different species as possible. For centuries, humanity fought itself, nearly destroying our world multiple times. We split into nations, religions, and ideologies that seemed impossible to reconcile. But we learned from our mistakes. We found unity not by erasing our differences, but by celebrating them while working toward common goals. The holographic display in the center of the chamber activated, showing scenes from Earth's history, ancient wars giving way to modern cooperation, environmental disasters followed by recovery efforts, early space missions evolving into the current fleet.
You chose to quarantine us because you feared what we might become, continued Du Hyun.
I understand that fear.
But in doing so, you denied yourselves the chance to help guide us, and you denied us the wisdom of your experience. Many of the Confederation representatives shifted uncomfortably. When framed this way, the quarantine seemed less like prudent caution and more like abandonment.
We don't seek conflict, Du Hyun said firmly. We don't want conquest.
What we want is to join you among the stars, not as subjects or junior partners, but as equals with our own contributions to make. With a gesture, he changed the holographic display to show human technological innovations.
Medical nanites that could cure diseases thought terminal.
Energy systems that operated at efficiencies previously thought impossible.
Agricultural techniques that could transform barren worlds.
These advances are not secrets we wish to hoard, he explained. They are gifts we offer freely to the Confederation, with no strings attached. Whether you accept us as members or not, these technologies are yours.
A murmur ran through the assembly. Such an offer was unprecedented.
The council leader, a tall being from one of the founding species, leaned forward.
Why would you share such valuable technologies without guarantee of return? Du Hyun smiled slightly. Because that is the best of what humanity can be. We compete, yes. We struggle and fight sometimes.
But we also give without expectation, help without reward, and reach out to others even when it costs us.
He stepped closer to the council table. You feared the sleeping giant. I understand why.
Our history is filled with violence and conquest. But now that we've awakened, we offer not our fist, but our hand. The silence that followed was profound. It stretched for several long moments before Admiral Park rose from his seat and approached the human delegation. To everyone's surprise, he extended all four of his hands in the traditional greeting of his people. On behalf of the Confederation Defense Force, I accept your offer of friendship, he said formally. Perhaps we have been sleeping as well, and it took humanity to awaken us to new possibilities. The council leader looked displeased at this breach of protocol, but the gesture had broken the tension. One by one, other representatives came forward to greet the humans. It took 3 days of intense negotiation to reach an agreement. Earth would not immediately join the Confederation as a full member, but would take time and further cultural exchange.
But the quarantine would be immediately and permanently lifted.
Human ships would be free to travel, trade, and explore, following reasonable safety guidelines that apply to all species. On the final day, Ambassador Du Hyun and the council leaders signed the Earth Confederation Accord. As they shook hands, the human custom having been hastily learned by the council leader, applause broke out in the chamber. This is not the end of a process, said the council leader, but the beginning of one.
There is much we need to learn about each other. Du Hyun nodded.
And much we can accomplish together. As the human delegation prepared to return to Earth with the good news, Admiral Park approached Du Hyun privately. I was the one who recommended the quarantine 50 years ago, he admitted.
I feared what humanity might become. Du Hyun studied the Admiral's face. And now?
Now I fear what the galaxy would have missed if you had remained isolated, Park replied.
Your species thinks differently than any I've encountered. We need that perspective. Du Hyun smiled.
Then perhaps the quarantine served its purpose, just not in the way you intended. It forced us to solve problems on our own, to find our own unique path to the stars. As the human ships departed for Earth, carrying news of the historic agreement, a new chapter began for both humanity and the Confederation. The sleeping giant had awakened, and its dreams would now help shape the destiny of 1,000 worlds.